Hey!
Hi, this is Dr. Christine.
And Dr. Colin.
And we are your co-hosts for the exciting new podcast called
Love, Scrubs, and Stories,
where we dive deep into the world of dating and relationships and go beyond the people wearing the white coats, the scrubs, and the stethoscopes.
Come join us on this journey where we engage in dialogue and share stories of love, heartbreak, resilience, and triumphs. And we also navigate our professional lives with our hearts on our sleeves.
Please remember to subscribe and hit the notification button to stay up to date on all future episodes.
And we look forward to seeing you inside. What's going on? Welcome back to the Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Dr. Christine Nguyen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And so if this is your first time joining the podcast, just wanted to let you know that this is actually part 2 of an episode that we had recorded. And this is our guest, Dr. Logan Foltz. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to part 1 first, and it's going to be totally worth your while. And then catch up on that, and then come back here and join us for part 2. And it's going to guarantee you so much packed with so much value and insights that it's going to be really worth your time to check it out.
All right, guys, we'll see you inside. Bye.
Okay, bye. I was just curious, how about someone's spending behavior?
Yeah,
what is that?
Yeah, that's tough because it's hard to ask someone just to show you their books and their credit cards, and get a good feel for their spending. I try not to judge someone too much right away because I realize that someone's income and someone's spending is only a part of their financial picture, and there's a lot we might not know. Maybe they do have a trust fund from Jeff Bezos, or maybe they, or maybe maybe it makes sense considering their background, for the reasons I said. So I try not to judge too much, but honestly, I don't worry. Someone's spending doesn't bother me if I think if I think they have the income to support it, and vice versa. Yeah. If someone might spend less than I do, but if their income is dramatically lower, then to me that's an issue. I try to judge, like we call it cash flow in financial planning. Just do they know how to do they make enough to support themselves and their plans? And how's it going to play into what I want to do with my money in my life?
Yeah. I think, a good example is if you're planning a trip, right? Between, you and me, right? We're, Logan and I, we're planning a trip, right? And we're doing a boys trip, and, do you spend money on the food? Do you spend money on, activities, right? And planning for that? Is it an exotic location, right? And how much of the planning they want to participate in, or I'm just going to go shopping, right? I think that is a nice ease, into it. Another way you can think about it, a good example for me, because my sister is getting married next year, is that her and her partner decide that they want to have more of a low key, wedding, and they would rather save it for, another property or save it for something else. So it's hard. That is hard. But I really like what you said about, if their attachment style, that gives you a lot of insights. And if you have a glimpse in terms of what their childhood was like, especially, how much or how little their parenting, styles have contributed to them, I think that gives you an idea of how, they kind of look at things. But it's so challenging at the end of the way. You have to be really, really good at finessing, questions without, evoking such a personal response for someone that maybe doesn't want to be asked that kind of question.
Yeah, we can talk more about questions because that's an art form in and of itself. But I liked what the examples you gave about planning a vacation, because there's a lot of little expenses, and most people don't like budgeting. Budgeting's a bad word for them. So that's one thing I try to assess, with someone I'm dating is do they basically think of money as not scarce, but at least finite? The way I think about it is, I don't know if you guys eat Panda Express, but sometimes I'll go there and I'll get an entree and 2 sides. But then I'm like, I want this side and I want this side. Well, the cost of that is I can't have the egg rolls, or I can't have the dessert. You just have to be understanding at all times just what you have the capacity to do, and you have to, and some people bring that into how they think about money. But, some people just aren't that conscious of it in the moment.
Lots of great points, Logan. And so I'm really amazed by a lot of things that you said. I'm definitely going to ponder on a lot of these things because you brought up a lot of things that I had never really thought about before. And I'm pretty sure our audience is going to really benefit from a lot of things we talked about. So what about, and this has come up in like WCR, like one of the questions. And so what about in scenarios where in a relationship, there's like a huge like financial discrepancy between the couple? And certainly, it's definitely trickier, right? When the high income earner is a woman, right? And just because it's, it can be very uncomfortable for a lot of women. And, I don't know, do you think like this has to do with like social conditioning, or are there like deeper societal factors such as like the traditional gender roles, the societal expectations, or perhaps the, affecting the power dynamics in a relationship? Like, I'm really curious to hear on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, sure. That's another complicated topic. But first of all, those are my favorite threads on the Facebook group, and I'm just drawn to them like a moth to a flame. Yeah, they've got so much good, juicy stuff. And second, I would like to know where these women that make 4 times my income are, because I wish I were that lucky. It's been a long. I don't know if I've ever had that scenario play out for myself.
Just for context,
Logan, would you want a sugar mama? Let's just air it out right now. This is the most important question. Do you want a sugar mama?
Yeah, I mean, bring it on. Yeah, let's make it happen. Yeah, so I love those threads, but yeah, I just haven't been able to apply them in real life yet. But I mean, I think I can relate a little bit. I mean, I'm a psychiatrist, so I'm not bringing in buku bucks or anything. But yeah, I sometimes like have a little bit of anxiety, when there's a big income disparity too, and it's usually in the other direction. But I think the first thing is just, if you try to get to know yourself better and understand how you feel about it, it'll help you answer the question of why does it bother you, and the reason it's hard to help give good advice in those threads is there's not that much context, because there's a lot of different reasons that, you might be uncomfortable with dating someone with a big income disparity. I was talking about the money scripts, and for money, like money vigilance is when you're anxious about losing money. And I think for those people, they're worried about just if the relationship or the marriage fails, what impact it'll have on them. And with other people, I think some people, the respect and prestige that comes with money is really important, and that's something they expect a partner to bring too. They want someone who can augment that, I guess. But I think it's also important to evaluate just your feelings and how you think others will perceive the situation. If it's you, then you can just be honest with yourself, and ask yourself, is it really important? And maybe you want to try to change your beliefs, but maybe you're okay with just accepting it. It's really important that you date someone that makes 6 figures or makes at least as much money as you. But you can also just ask, what's the trade-off with that? What's the cost? What's the likelihood that I'll be excluding someone with whom I could be really happy? But if it's someone else, if it's other people you're worried about, if you're worried about your friends or your social circle, no judgment. I mean, yeah, we all respond to social conditioning and how other people think, but you might just ask yourself, why do you care so much? That's one thing I've realized. That's one thing that's gotten me to take some big risks in life and change, get off the status quo, is just ask myself, is there any reason I should care this much? Do I really even care what people think? And there may be valid reasons for that. There may not be, or you may have trouble, and that may just get you to re-examine your approach to dating. I think I can't speak for women. I think it could potentially be more of a stressor with women just because of the social societal conditioning you mentioned, Christine. But I mean, there's real reasons that that gender norms are in place, because our society, it's integrated into our economy. Women take on the lion's share of childcare responsibility. So because of that, it can be harder to advance their income, to progress in their careers. And so, there's reason it could be more important when you look for that in a male partner, and also women, they often don't work. They often retire sooner. They don't work as long. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's all kind of baked into the economy in our society. So it does make sense on some levels, but I don't know if it's applicable generally to every person's situation. I think it's different for everyone. So I think it's just good to be in touch with yourself and understand why that situation brings you stress.
Yeah. Yeah. All great points. So just a couple of thoughts that I have on this issue, because I've, given this a lot of thought, because this topic actually comes up every now and then. And so some of the reasons that I've heard were, that even though like that, let's say in these hetero relationships, like the woman may be okay with that, with this like huge like income, discrepancy, but maybe their male partner may say that they are. But like once they're like in the relationship and things play out, then it affects like I was mentioning the power dynamics, right? The decision making, and perhaps it emasculates the men. And so and not all men, may feel secure enough to be in this position where the woman is the breadwinner. And so that's some of the things that have sort of come up.
Yeah, that's very true. And one little axiom that I didn't get to before you chimed in, Christine, is I think the most important thing is that you respect your partner, and and I think that for some people, money is paramount in seeing someone as an equal, and for them to really earn your respect. But in some cases, it's just a proxy. It's just a substitute. It's just the first thing you notice, and so that's something if that's the case, if money is something you really value highly when you determine how you feel and how much you respect your partner, then that's just a good thing to understand. Is it possible that someone can still earn your respect even if they don't check that box?
I think this reinforces just having experience with dating and relationships, right? So like if you encounter that kind of situation and you realize like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this and I thought I was, right? And if it doesn't go the distance, then you just take that into the new relationship and, find someone that, doesn't make higher or that much, lower, So because I think even with money, these are just, lessons, because there's a big difference when your preferences on paper versus when you're actually with that person. And then you actually have this, commingling experience of a relationship, So, but yeah, it is hard, especially for some men that thought it would be okay and then realize, it's not. I mean, Christine, is that what you've gotten a lot, is that men just end up feeling like emasculated because of that?
I mean, this is, obviously a small sample size, and there, plenty of women, have been able to make these relationships work where they are the breadwinner for sure, but I think, I would say, at least it appears like for the majority of women, it's very uncomfortable, and some have tried and it hasn't worked for them. And these were some of the reasons that were mentioned. It's not to say that it won't, like you said, every situation is different, Logan. And it really comes down to the couple. And, and I love that how you said that, the respect they have for one another. And certainly some of the aspects that you mentioned earlier, like what are your shared values? What are your beliefs and thoughts about money? And is this something that you can communicate effectively and work together in this partnership?
A good example, I don't know if you guys have watched the Netflix series How to Get Rich. I believe his name is Ramit Sethi or something like that. It's a very, very good, a Netflix series. A good case study is this couple. The woman makes more than the guy. The guy is a house husband, right? And so they had continuous arguments about, how much money he's quote unquote allowed to spend and how much he's willing, he wants to spend stuff, right? And he feels like he needs to have a certain allowance. And the woman she's the breadwinner, she's like, I don't think you need this much because I'm bringing in this much and I think it needs to be allocated, blah, 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 blah. So to me, I don't think it's as simple as who makes more money, because I feel like that translates into other decisions for the household, right? If you're in a long-term relationship, it's going to be different when you're dating, right? So I think it's not just one slice of the pie, and just it leaks into other things. So I thought it was a really cool series.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought up Ramit Sethi. Yeah, because I've listened to his podcast. I haven't seen the Netflix series, but it's basically a master class in uncovering all these biases and minefields and how to ask questions to clarify them a little bit more. He's so
good.
To pick them up. Yeah. I can think of several episodes just like you described, in which there's 2 million income difference between the female and the male. And yeah, I mean, and there's the the way both partners feel about it is all over the spectrum. Some men don't mind; they're okay with the sugar mama, and some really want to be treated just as if, as if their partner was the breadwinner. And yeah, and he does a great job in digging into that. And a lot of times it does go back to their life experiences, surprisingly.
I think it comes back to going back to that question of what are you comfortable with, right? And going back to yourself and reevaluating, is this what I'm comfortable with? Am I not comfortable, with this, right? Because I think it requires a lot of self-reflection because, like we're talking about in this episode, our mindset and relationship with money is really built on our childhood, our environment, right? What we've seen, growing up, it sounds like that's the foundation of the psychology. So it really comes back to am I okay in this situation, for myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Well, as we are hearing right now, money discussions can be a major source of friction in relationships. Do you have some good tips or guidance on how to have effective communication, discussions about financial planning, splitting expenses, saving, handling just extra money, perhaps, we're in that situation, thankfully. The Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast is a collaboration and co-production between The Chef Doc and White Coat Romance.
The Chef Doc is a wellness platform that offers innovative approaches to thriving and offers a self-empowerment book, podcast series, on-demand masterclass series, as well as a brand new app. The app provides self-guided education such as food as medicine, self-care, and resilience. Coaching services are also available, whether you prefer one-on-one or group type settings. Please go now to your app store as well as Apple as Google Play to download for free.
White Coat Romance is a dating app for healthcare and health-related professionals and students in the US and Canada. It's a lively space where you can find love, companionship, and build meaningful connections with like-minded professionals. If you're single, go to the App Store and Google Play to download and join our vibrant community.
As we both serve these amazing communities, we also acknowledge the value of continuing education. Therefore, we're super excited to share an enticing opportunity with our listeners. Our episodes are continuing education eligible. That's right. You now have the opportunity to earn valuable credits while enjoying our content.
Rest assured, the episodes will always remain free as we are committed to supporting our communities and amplifying the voices of healthcare professionals. To get a better understanding of how this works, the first 3 episodes are free to obtain, then the rest of the podcast episodes are at a nominal cost.
So you might be asking who can earn credits? Well, physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians associates, pharmacists, dentists, as well as dietitians and dietetic technicians.
If you find yourself in need of CE credits, we kindly ask you to consider directing your CE funds towards supporting our cause. Your contribution would greatly help us nurture our podcast production and continue to bring you valuable content.
We are deeply grateful for your support. From all of us here at Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast, thank you so much for choosing us.
And enjoy the rest of this episode. How would a couple, what are some strategies and communication styles that you think would be important?
Yeah.
To effectively, ideally as possible to navigate this tricky.
Sounds like everybody's favorite date night conversation. Yeah. So I think that the way I prefer to initiate that conversation is just by explaining that I have a need that it's important to me. For just speaking for myself, I've realized that it doesn't bother me too much if I do things with my partner a different way than I would myself, even if there's a large difference. But what's more important to me is that I have a plan and that I have I just know what to expect. So ways you can bring that up is just to say, I need clarity on how we manage our finances. Can we discuss this? That's how I try to do it, as smoothly as I can. And I also just explain that I like to keep our relationship grounded and know what to expect when we're in situations. And it helps me have a better time when I can just focus on my time with you and not about what's happening with our money in the moment. So in financial planning, they call that, one term for that is policy-based planning. So just know that there's a lot of examples I could give of that. It's like, if you pay the rent, I'll cover all the utilities and all of our vacations. That's one policy. Or, if when it comes to saving, every time we get a large bonus or a large sum of cash, we save half of it towards our house. Like those are just systems you can follow instead of just always doing things in the moment and trying to discuss what to do every time you haven't had that experience before and don't know what to expect. So I think that's the best way I know to approach it.
I love that because it really feels, number one, it felt really non-aggressive, in the way that you framed, the wording. And also for me personally, it's very unattractive to, go down 50-50. Right? Like conceptually, like, yes, we always feel like, oh, each party needs to contribute something. But the way that you said it, and I think we've had this discussion come up before in a previous episode, Christine, is that, one partner contributes something, the other partner contributes something else. And it may not be exactly 50-50, but it's almost like, the game of Tetris. I think we're old enough to know what Tetris is, right? But you're building, not all the blocks are equal, right? You have something here, but they all eventually become the foundation of something, right? Mm-hmm. So I like it because it just seems very turn-off-ish when it's like, oh, to a T,
down the middle,
point, down the middle. To me, it's very unattractive, so.
Yeah.
I mean, just are not 50-50, right, Logan? I mean, like, it depends on what we're talking about, right? It could be, like 30-70 on this particular topic or issue, or on a day-to-day. Like, I feel like it fluctuates. It's not reasonable to say that you want things 50-50 like all the time.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're dating like someone who's also in your residency program at the same year and who has the same amount of savings and expenses, then there's going to be some inequality there. And just the financial side of things, it's probably not going to be 50-50, but you just, what you hope to find is someone who brings more to the table that you don't have, who has those extra Tetris pieces, who just helps you form a composite piece of art as in a relationship that you don't have individually, that just
like your weakness, your weakness is their strength.
Yeah.
Your weakness is their strength. Like that would be ideal. They're like puzzle pieces, they just connect really well.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so many non-monetary, factors at play in a relationship, right? I mean, certainly we're talking about money and finances today.
Yeah.
But that could be, value, like, if you put a dollar amount, if you even could, I don't think you can.
That's why I say, like, I like to have ground rules, but after that, I think that variety between partners is good. There's a yin to a yang, and you can both bring out the best in each other. Just once you understand that this is the way we need to approach our finances, just as a general framework.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Colin, did you have any additional questions? No? Yeah, this has been fascinating.
I don't have. This has been really, really good because the most important thing is really fleshing out things that we're not comfortable in speaking about, but we eventually, inevitably know that these are very necessary talks, right? It's kind of like, you're into financial planning. So, I don't know if estate planning is part of what you do, Logan, but, that's what I'm, doing with, my, family. And it's very uncomfortable, right? But that it's something that you want to do. And I think that the earlier, the better to have these types of discussions will, kind of cement that foundation, for a longer term relationship, if that's something that you choose to do.
Yeah. And when I talk about these things, it sounds really easy and straightforward, but in real life, it can often get messier, and it's hard to ask these questions and find the right time to ask these questions. So I think that in the White Coat Romance group and otherwise, I hope that we keep asking these questions and talk about how we handled them and how we answered questions when they come up like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My main takeaway is to not talk about it,
Yeah. And I say just to talk about it early, just because I know that if you put it off, it can just sink, your relationship, and then you're just starting over. So that's why I think it's vital to start early.
And you hold grudges, right? If you don't talk about it, and then you make assumptions about each other too, as well. So gosh, looking at the time, like, as much as you provide so much like value and insights and great, you appreciate it, but we probably should wrap things up. So Logan, what are your top 3 takeaways you think that you'd like for our audience to know regarding money and finances and relationships? And if there are any additional resources, I know you've mentioned some, do you want to mention more that you'd like to share?
I can send you more to put resources in the show notes, but I think the top 3 takeaways I would leave you with are: 1, understand yourself, your own attitudes, and your own life experiences, and just try to conceptualize how you think about money, possibly using some of these tools I mentioned. Yeah. Number 2, I mean, money is just deeply personal and complex, and if you can enter a relationship or dating situation just with curiosity, and non-judgment, and just seeking to understand, I think that's going to be I think that it's going to lead to a better overall relationship and lead to better money decisions between you and your partner. And you want to be with someone who you can be honest with, vulnerable with, and just who can have these conversations with. And yeah, third, I would just reiterate, talk about it early and often, and just try to frame it as something that's important to you, without implying that it's a problem with someone else or in a threatening way.
Awesome. Well, I definitely learned a ton.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So, Logan, what are the best ways for our audience to connect with you should they want to reach out and they want to learn more from you?
Yeah, I'm not.
Do you have anything to share or promote right now?
Yeah, good question. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and if you type my name in, I think you'll see you'll see me at the top of the page. You can also just send me a direct message on Facebook. I'm working for a fintech startup right now called Attend, and we're doing disability insurance evaluations and student loan consultations. So if you have any questions about your student loans, you can just reach out to us at www.helloattend.com. If you're looking for another podcast you want to listen to, there's one called Money Meets Medicine that Jimmy Turner and Alicia Taylor co-host that talks about just more straight up financial topics and financial planning that might be relevant to you. So that's what I have.
That's great.
Well, Logan, thank you so much for taking the time out, for doing this. We're really happy this is your first time, so applause for your first time being a, podcast guest. And I hope that you help, so many people with your passion into, personal finance. And we wish you massive success. So thank you so much for taking the time out today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Appreciate you so much.
Yeah, this has been a blast. I'm so grateful you guys for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Christine, do you have anything else before we close out?
That's it. Let's close out.
Okay, great. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching another episode. If you like this, please click, subscribe, comment, and share with someone that you feel like this is a benefit. And until the next episode, on behalf of me and Christine, say goodbye to Logan.
Bye, Dr. Logan. Bye.
Bye. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to this channel. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you felt like this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know as well.
As a reminder, this channel does not offer medical advice. All opinions expressed are ours and our guests only. It is for general informational purposes only and does not replace professional healthcare services. Please consult your own healthcare provider for any medical issues you may have.
Until the next episode, whether you're in and out of your scrubs,
please remember to love yourself and others and lead with kindness.
Bye.